Ever play Dark Souls and think to yourself, you know, this game could use some more katanas? Well then Nioh might be the game for you. Nioh is a Souls-like game based around real historical figures. You play as William Adams, a former pirate who likes to whisper all his lines.
It seems death won't stop chasing me.
He somehow gets his guardian spirit stolen by this dickhead. His name is Kelly, and right off the bat you can tell it's hard to take him seriously because South Park always comes to mind when you hear his name.
Hello, Kelly. How's my baby?
Anyway, Kelly takes your spirit waifu to Japan, and William becomes a samurai to get her back. Insert first weeaboo joke here. He joins up with some lord to slay monsters, samurai, and ninjas, because why not? If you couldn't already tell, I think this narrative is a giant fucking joke. It throws way too many characters at you at once, almost like you should know historical figures or something. Sorry, Ninja Theory, I went to public school in California, so your references are lost on me. Plus all Asians look the same anyway. But seriously, the characters can be a bit overwhelming, especially since most of them are only seen a few times and pop up as cardboard cutouts to give you missions, so you hardly get attached to any of them. It also doesn't help that they're useless twits who ask you to solve all their problems for them. I mean, Jesus Christ, I thought the Japanese were hard work. Okay, I promise, that's the last one. But in my defense, at least I didn't name the only black character the Obsidian Samurai. The plot is also a mess. Unlike Dark Souls and Bloodborne, Nioh liberally uses cutscenes and audio of the dead to tell you its story, so comparatively it gives the player a lot more information, which is really up to you if you like or not. I think it ends up hurting it because of how bad the writing is. There's one part where it tries to showcase the horror and moral ambiguity of war, while William literally cuts people into tiny pieces. Missed the mark there a little bit with being totally inconsistent, but we can't always be perfect. At least I would say that, but Kelly, the villain, is a giant fucking failure with motivations that don't make any sense. He wants to farm a substance called Amrita, which will give England more power, and conveniently needs William's plot device, I mean spirit, for some reason. He'll acquire a lot of Amrita by causing a giant war, which he achieves, but then he wants to revive Oda Nobunaga for another war, which he could just do himself again. The problem lies with Nioh trying to hit every single historical point and still fuse it with the monster-slaying fiction that it has, because it sometimes contradicts characters' motivations and doesn't quite work narratively. Granted, there may be some tidbits hidden away in the item descriptions to answer some of my questions, but with what I saw, I don't care enough to start my summer reading early. Here's some unedited footage. Watch how seamlessly Nioh transitions from cutscene to mission. Yep, not abrupt at all. While we're at it, someone's gonna have to explain to me when I'm older why falling in water is an instant death when William can fucking swim in a full suit of armor no less after getting shot in the beginning of the game. The story is obviously not where Nioh shows its Dark Souls influence. That's in the gameplay. You have a standard light and heavy attack and must pick your openings wisely. There were times in the beginning of the game when I'd be so much in the Dark Souls mindset, I'd be pressing the wrong button and just stand there like a moron. Altogether, Nioh seems to be somewhere between Dark Souls and Bloodborne in terms of speed. Sure, William moves and attacks faster than any character in Bloodborne, but when you can block, the combat's pace slows down regardless. My Dark Souls senses are tingling. Oh, what the fuck? What kind of laws of physics are these? But Nioh isn't a total ripoff. When you die, you lose your Amrita/experience, but if you die before retrieving it, you lose your experience from both runs and you're left with nothing. The increased stakes make retrieving your XP even more stressful, but in a good way, because let's be honest, retrieving your lost experience wasn't that hard in Dark Souls. There are also 3 different stances to wield your weapon. High stance is slow and strong, low stance is fast but has the best dodges, and mid stance is in between for the people with commitment issues. You'll have to switch your stances depending on your style of play and what yokai you're fighting. The stances add a nice bit of variety to each weapon, kind of like what Bloodborne's alt forms did. And thank God, because the amount of weapon types is kind of sad. You've got the sword, spear, axe, dual swords, and kusarigama. A whopping 5 weapons, but at least they're all viable, thankfully. However, some weapons seem like they're clearly better than others. Fun fact, a kusarigama means easy mode in Japanese. Okay. You also have projectile weapons, 3 to be exact. You have to aim them manually, but they're a good way to get a jump on a group of enemies. I personally stuck with the single sword and dual swords throughout my playthrough. Maybe it's because William's a pirate and a samurai, but I don't know why I'd make that connection to 3 swords. Although my favorite addition is the key pulse system, which allows you to recover stamina after attacking. It gives the combat a sense of rhythm and the pace a much needed boost. Putting more emphasis on the stamina overall was a pretty good decision. It makes you a bit more cautious and requires you to manage your stamina better, obviously. Because if you're hit with low stamina, your character starts gasping for breath like Fat Albert after walking up a flight of stairs. He also takes a little extra damage too. Nioh also has a decent amount of detail. Shooting an enemy's helmet will not kill him, and if you're on fire, you'll put it out faster if you roll around a couple of times. It's clear a lot of effort was put into the details of the game, and I respect that. With that said, Nioh flat out fails to hit that Dark Souls balance of tough but fair. It ranges from a joke to crushingly bullshit. However, the bullshit goes both ways. Ever wonder why Dark Souls has a backstab animation and something to break your guard? Because without those, you can turtle your way through most common enemies. Throughout the game, there are graves of players who've died and have a serious case of needing to get good. You can fight their character for some extra gear, but because the AI is so bad, you can just abuse the attack out of block skill, and really it just becomes a situation of, hey look, free stuff! Rather than being a tough decision between fighting a guy that might have some really good gear at the cost of some much needed health items that will be crucial later on. But the bosses also lack in quality. They range from boring to samurai that don't get affected with hit stun to complete assholes. There are a handful of good ones sprinkled throughout though. You'll face 0 to deaths, complete bullshit status effects like paralysis, and the samurai that are barely more challenging than a standard NPC. I initially thought the game was designed to use the laundry list of items it throws at you for the bosses. When I was facing that hoe with the paralyzing blast, I thought the anti-paralytic needle would prevent me from getting instantly paralyzed and then kicked into next Saturday. It didn't. I'm all for a good challenge, but fighting bosses and enemies that only have one trick or attack that make them difficult is not a good challenge. You can usually tell this is the case when the bosses don't have a varied move pool and they just have one cheap bullshit attack that usually kill you. That's not to say you aren't given tools that are equally as cheap. I mentioned the easy mode, but there's also a few spells that can slow bosses by about half their normal speed. If that sounds broken, it is. Giving a player access to these options cheapens the overall experience that comes with overcoming a grand challenge, because at least half of the fights come down to a fucking cheesing contest. There's also this living weapon system where you can go into super mode and do extra damage and not take any damage. If you get hit, you'll just revert back to normal quicker. It's something I'd occasionally use on a boss, and it's alright, I guess. I don't have much of an opinion on it because I generally forgot about it more than anything else. I'm not a fan of making the game mission-based because it separates the world and makes it feel less organic and realistic, but that's purely subjective. The environments do get exhausting rather quickly, though. It comes down to whether you're in a cave, forest, and Japanese village. The only difference is how much fire the villagers like to decorate with. While the level design is solid, the item system killed any sense of needing to explore. The only thing I really used were the elixirs, and the weapons get outclassed every hour because they use a level system that matches yours, so there's no sense of loss for ignoring the road less traveled. Although, to be fair, Nioh does allow you to match the level of a weapon to another, and it might even be worth it if I didn't have to take out a second mortgage on my house. So the safer option is keeping all your gear stats and just changing the appearance. I call this armor buyer's remorse, because March 24th really can't come fast enough, can it? The abundance of items you get in Nioh doesn't really work with a Souls-like experience. It just means staying in the menu system longer rather than playing the actual game. Granted, it probably won't bother you that much if you're okay with Borderlands and Diablo loot systems. Nioh is like a Souls game crossed with Ninja Gaiden. It has difficulty striking that fair but challenging balance that's synonymous with From Software's titles. So, should you play Nioh? Well, the answer's in the title. No. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Nioh is a solid game that has some fun to be had, but if you're a giant Dark Souls fag like me, don't feel bad skipping it because it likely won't live up to your expectations. Nioh gets a C+. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Keep in mind that this is very much of a Dark Souls fan's perspective. There really wasn't any way I could not have that with how similar these two games are. I do know I nitpick a lot, and some of these things that I critique are minor in this grand scheme of things, but I'd argue that the reason Dark Souls is so great is because of doing every little thing right. But that's my 2 cents. See you guys next time.